So quantum computing is this, it's very, very early days, but that's also extremely exciting because it's kind of like we're in the 1960s or 1970s of the classical computing world where all of this innovation was possible.
Rebecca, I'm excited to continue our conversation and now hear more about your journey. This is an exciting field to be in, but tell me, how did you get to where you are right now, being founding of this new quantum concept of a focus on quantum security? What's your journey been like?
My background, I didn't come from a quantum physics background. I came from an AI background. So I started at Stanford. I got the opportunity to study something called symbolic systems, which is it's an artificial intelligence focused field of study, and just got intrigued by the world of AI because I don't have to convince anybody that AI is such a huge a huge thing right now. So I went into it. I dove in really. And after studying, I worked on a bunch of independent projects. So I worked for different companies building things because I really wanted to, I knew I wanted to sort of lead some kind of charge in the AI space. But first I thought it was important to really get hands-on experience and build things myself so I could really know what I was talking about. And so I ended up building a lot of really cool things in computer vision, in natural language processing, in machine learning, different predictive pricing tools, all of this cool stuff. And one thing that really struck me as I was building, you go from academia where you have typically very clean data sets and like sterile problems that you're solving that have been solved before. And then you go into enterprise or you go into the business world and you're looking at these problems where things are not exactly, you have to be creative in making them tackleable problems. You're dealing with messy data, you're dealing with not super well-defined problem statements. And for me, that was fun. But one thing that really stuck out to me in all of these projects was there's this theoretical there's this theoretical kind of level that we can achieve in AI. All these cool ideas that, in theory we know how to do, but the limiting factor for a lot of these is computing power. And that's why we've seen GPUs really come into style over the last several years, because they've allowed us to parallelize a lot of this and amplify our deep learning capabilities. When quantum computing came on my radar a few years ago, it was kind of this I hit this point of no return where it's like, I can't go back to this world where we talk about all these cool things, but we're limited, right? We're limited by what we can do on classical computing power. So quantum computing is this, it's very, very early days, but that's also extremely exciting because it's kind of like we're in the 1960s or 1970s of the classical computing world where all of this innovation was possible. And we have to think about these big problems that are gonna emerge, big opportunities and big problems that are gonna emerge, just like cybersecurity risks.
Any thoughts you can share of, okay, now it's been a year, a little over with Quantum Thought, a bit more in place, bringing the team together. You said you had two co-founders who had the technical ideas and you bringing the concept together and be able to move forward and find the clients and bring clarity. What was it like? Any things you can share as far as fundraising, as far as bringing the team together and getting the first couple clients that you can share?
I came from the world where AI is new, but it's also not new as well. Computer science is sort of the same. So if there are well-established ideas and ways of going about solving problems, and even just when you're coding, you can actually Google most coding issues that you're facing, and someone has faced it before. Quantum computing is this total wild west of what is it? What do we do with it? There's not that same sort of community and I guess repository of wisdom that exists around it. So I think when it came to quantum thought and Q-Secure, a lot of the first several months were really figuring out, I guess, a lot of education. And we had a lot of hypotheses that, about where things would play out and where we would sit in terms of the technology, and some were valid, and we definitely disproved a lot of them. And I think that's a really valuable experience for any entrepreneur, is being willing to be wrong, right, and pivoting fast.
What are your thoughts on being able to move forward from here? How are you going to overcome that challenge? What are you looking to do to keep communications flowing and opportunities coming in the enterprise world?
Right. So we hold a lot of webinars. So if you are interested in diving a little bit more, deeply into what we're doing, we do a lot of webinars that you can. I know most people are exhausted by Zoom at this point, but yay webinars. I think a lot of our efforts have been really focused around implementation at this point, and really getting those solid proof points and I guess support from our existing customers. But I think we're definitely hoping that the world opens up soon and we can tackle this global challenge.
What kind of tech innovations do you predict we'll see in the near term and the long term? So in the next year or so, what can we see? And then in the next 5 to 10 years, what can we expect?
Last year we saw Google was able to achieve quantum supremacy. And what that meant was that they were able to use a quantum computer to solve a really hard math problem in about 3 minutes that would have taken the world's most powerful supercomputer something like 10,000 years to solve. So that was this really cool inflection point for quantum computing that shows like, hey, this is real, this is legit. And so what I'm expecting to see in the quantum space over the next year is more of these instances of quantum advantage where we're solving problems in just in a way that we can't solve them on classical computers. And if I digress just for a second, one of my favorite visualizations to kind of make this for those of you new to quantum to wrap your head around it a little bit is if you imagine, so this is kind of the way that I visualize quantum computers. If you imagine that you're trying to solve a maze, and so you enter into that maze, and we as people, you hit your first T, right? You can go right or left, and we have to choose, right? We go right or left. So you go right, you hit another T, you go left, and it's this getting through the maze is this iterative process. You explore different paths, you go back and forth, and finally you find your way out. And that's actually the same way that a regular computer works, is they choose, they iterate, etc. Quantum computer, if a quantum computer is trying to solve a maze, gets to its first T, because of the craziness of the quantum world, instead of having to choose, you can actually sort of take both at the same time. And it's not just in parallel. It's not just like you're running two parallel processes. You're literally, because of the property of superposition, it's kind of like you're splitting the universes in two, and one you're taking this path, and in another you're taking this path. And you can continue to do that for all of the paths through the maze and simultaneously look at all of these different paths. And if you're clever in setting up your algorithm, you can actually instantaneously find the most optimal path through that maze. And so that's the power of quantum computing. And so to get back to your question, over the next year, we're going to see a lot of these things being a lot of this being applied to real world situations, whether that's everything from cybersecurity to efficient logistics and routing to algorithmic stock trading, etc. And I think over the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of things will look very, very different. We're quickly approaching this point where quantum computing is powerful enough to do some really, 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 really exciting things. And it will disrupt a lot of industries, not just in cybersecurity. 10 years is really, I think, maximum estimate for when quantum computers will be able to break the encryptions that we rely on today.
Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.